Does the person you are with encourage you to read? You have to ask, what does he bring for me? Roses or books? If someone has a stake in making you better, that person will push you towards books. Books are what we all need.
I would want to know your opinions. Is it something that is feared, or is it that there's something that should be regulated or should be celebrated? I was watching one of your videos on sexuality where you talk about the vessel which is put on fire and there's a lid that is placed. So it's burning and it's boiling, but it does not have the agency to burst. And you also so you gave the example of how there is so much lure and attraction that is being put forward to us, that is appealing to our sexuality and sensuality. Simple things like buying a shaving cream or deodorant, things like that. And you said that we could try to not get lured, like it's a trap, don't fall into it. But I find that since there's so many traps, it's easier to fall into a trap, right? So should we look for a way, so if we fall into a trap, should we look forward to coming out of that trap? So when we as a psychology students, we read how psychological symptoms are because of repressed childhood desires and sexualities. So what I think is that, does this sexuality needs expression? Is prevention, what if we try to prevent it, it might not get prevented, it will be there. So then should we look for ways where it can be healthily expressed?
See, whatever we do is an expression. Breath is an expression. Eating is an expression. These hand gestures, they are an expression. The way you're nodding your head is an expression. The way I do my hair is an expression. Everything that we do, every bit of what we are is an expression. Even repression is an expression. Do you understand that? Even repression is an expression. We have decided, for example, as a society, as a culture, which parts of body to publicly hide and which parts to publicly declare. That is an expression of what we are. Is that not? Is that not? So even repression is an expression. What does expression mean? Expression means manifestation. So what you are, and by that I mean the quality of your mind, that is certainly going to be expressed. So there is hardly any question of a separate inquiry into the expression of sexuality. You see, do we repress only our sexual urges?
Of course not.
We repress everything.
Yeah, even the basics of emotion,
anger, fear, attraction. We repress everything. I just talked of clothes. We repress everything. In fact, one would not be factually incorrect if he says that civilization is an exercise in repression. So when healthy expression would come, then it is not only sexuality that would be expressed. A man would become totally expressive, and that is the whole purpose of life, to express the self. And by the self, I mean the healthy self, not the sick ego. You asked whether sexuality needs to be controlled or celebrated.
Or feared.
or feared. Neither controlled nor celebrated. There is nothing really so special about it that it deserves a separate and distinct celebration.
Yeah.
For example, you are not asking me whether blinking should be celebrated. Now you are blinking all the while. You are not asking me whether getting up from sleep every morning should be celebrated. You are not asking me whether sipping a cup of tea should be celebrated. These are movements in life. By deeming them as worthy of celebration, we are putting a stamp of uniqueness, speciality, and distinctness and extraordinariness upon them. And that is not health. In health, everything is so extraordinary that it is ordinary. In health, there are no fragments. In health, you do not value one part of being over another part.
Yeah. But, I get your point, what you're saying. But then also there is this fact that it is a very big taboo in our society. So while, yes, it should not be celebrated, it is very much feared. And it is a thing that is, talked in hushed tones and behind closed doors. So obviously we are relegating some kind of importance to it. While it is an ordinary thing, we are giving it importance and we are trying to suppress it. So I just
Richa, I want you to inquire into whether we are giving importance only to sexuality, and whether it is only sexuality that gets discussed in hushed tones and behind closed doors. Is it really so? There is a disease that is gross and apparent, and there is a disease. You can have a skin disorder, so it is visible, and you can have a liver disorder, it is not visible. But does that mean a liver disorder any less significant than a skin disorder? Sexuality might be there on the surface because sex is a very visible and open thing, and it produces very open and distinct results. You will have kids. So it is gross. But at the same time, there is so much that we are suppressing, and we have to talk about it because it is, I repeat, inseparably linked with all human disorder. Sexuality is just one aspect of it, and unless all aspects are taken care of, even the sexual aspect cannot be taken care of. I want to question you. Is sexuality not related to possessiveness? Is possessiveness not related to corporate greed?
So everything is interlinked.
And is it not related to political ambition? And is it not related to national chauvinism? And do diplomatic discussions not happen behind closed doors? Both are supposed to be highly confidential and private matters, are they not? Two nations, diplomats from two nations, and especially if it's a backdoor diplomatic effort, then nobody would want that anybody has even a whiff of what is going on. Like two secret lovers, two old diplomats would be meeting. So, you see, you look at the analogy, the parallel. Nobody would get to know what is happening. And they would get particularly annoyed if they come to know that the media is getting some kind of scent of it. And publicly, they would totally deny that there is an affair going on. No, nothing. Are you getting it? Only when the whole thing matures would they come out publicly with it, like lovers do. So there is so much in our life which is sick and rotten. Sexuality is just one of those things which in a way is good news, because it means that if we can pick up the thread at any end or from any place, this whole knitting that veils the reality from our eyes can be unraveled. You pick the thread from any place, and if you keep pulling it, you will soon find that the whole structure has come down. So if one can, for example, work on his forgetfulness, he is parallelly working on his sexuality. If one can work on his fears, he is parallelly working on his disease of ambition. If one can work on his daydreaming, he is parallelly working on his tendency to be hopeful and procrastinate. Laziness is so deeply linked with dwelling into the past. You work on one thing and you will come to the root of all disease. But to take one particular symptom or one particular expression of the disease as a separate unit in itself would be misleading and would never really solve the problem. This society, this sick society that you talked of, where sex is a taboo and sexuality is a taboo, please see that it is sick in 20 other respects also. And all aspects of those sicknesses move together. As the society becomes more liberal, as the minds become less narrow, then all kinds of sicknesses will be cured in unison, parallelly, together.
So while we are saying that obviously it's not just sexuality, there are a lot of other things interconnected. But I don't think, in the sense that it was always the case that sexuality or sex in India was specifically, seen as a taboo. Like before the Muslim invasion, before the coming of Britishers, we were quite a liberal society. Like we see it, like we come from the land of Kama Sutras, we see it in the temples, even the ways we used to dress up. So do you think we are still colonized in a way that, so the Britishers were and the Mughals were the ones who were more uptight about such things, and they had more taboos about sex and everything. And while they came, a sort of exchange happened where we obviously have become, more about, strict and everything about sexuality, while it seems that they have taken on to what we were as pre-colonized India. So do you think we have become we are still a colonized nation when it comes to the matters of sex and sexuality?
But why would that happen? You see, the two of us interact. Let's say I come from India and you come from the West. If I absorb all the darkness from you and you are able to assimilate all that is bright about me, what does that tell about us?
That we both have things that we lack? Like
there is darkness about you and there is brightness as well. And there is darkness about me and there is brightness as well. But what do I choose to take from you? Only darkness. And what do you choose to take from me? All that is good about me. So what does that tell about us?
That we are lacking, like we are looking for something that we feel is not in us.
Okay. I ask you again. There is a rotten thing here and there is a delicious thing here. And I pick up the rotten thing. And there's a rotten thing here and a delicious thing here. And you pick up the delicious thing. What does that tell about the two of us?
that we are, inclined in a way to look for a positive thing, and one is inclined to look for a negative thing. So that's our state of mind. So what we look for.
So, man and the society is built by man and the nations raised by man. They are always in constant touch and relationship with other entities. One nation would always be interacting with another nation. It depends upon you what you take from the other. And it depends upon you what you take from me. Getting it? Now, why should even if I buy the story that you are giving me, that India was colonized by various alien forces and then Indians in a spell of subjugation absorbed many vices from there. Even if I buy that story, tell me, why should I buy all that is useless about you? Why? If I am so very enlightened, then why should I be enthralled by darkness?
But maybe they did not see it as a darkness.
So
We were told that.
Then am I enlightened? If I do not see darkness as darkness, then am I enlightened?
So if we see, so we were told that we are barbarians and we need to civilize.
So if a dark one can tell an enlightened one that he's a barbarian, and the enlightened one buys those words, then is he really enlightened?
But maybe I don't realize that I'm enlightened and you are the one.
Everybody is enlightened. There is nothing but enlightenment.
Yeah.
You see,
But you need to recognize that enlightenment.
But the only difference between a Buddha and what you call as an ordinary human being is that a Buddha knows that he is enlightened.
Exactly.
So if I'm enlightened, then by definition I have to realize that I'm enlightened. And what kind of enlightenment is this? That quickly turns into self-doubt when a so-called barbarian dominates him. How is it possible? How is it possible?
So, could you reframe that thing again?
We are going back to, let's say, 9th century AD, right? 9th and 10th century. The first attacks on India's western borders have just begun. And this is a land of enlightenment. Correct. Adi Shankar was here pretty recently. This is the 9th century. And he traveled the length and breadth of the country, and he established the 4 peats, and he wrote such great commentaries in a short period of time. And we are living in a land of enlightenment, as you said. And then, as per the story, some barbarians come and they not only defeat me militarily, but they also conquer my mind. I give up all that is graceful and sublime about me. Then am I really enlightened? I am being defeated both physically and mentally. I am losing out not only on my land, but also on my mental freedom. Somebody can come and subjugate you by way of chaining you, by way of jailing you. But enlightenment, or let me just say mental cleanliness, is not something that an invader can take away from me. And here I would also want to say that the one who is liberated mentally is very difficult to defeat in war. He won't be defeated. Because you are defeated often not by the enemy's numbers, but by your own fear. And to be mentally liberated means you have no fear left. How can you be now defeated? You can be killed, but you cannot be defeated. A land that declares that I'm not the body. A land that declares that freedom is more precious than life. How could such a land accept defeat? And after accepting defeat, how could such a land accept a perversion of its values?
So what is coming to my mind is that, so maybe as a person I have a lot of good qualities, right? But I'm not aware of it. And someone else comes to me and says that these are not the qualities that are considered good by them. And these, like, maybe the mind game starts, and there's a dominance, the power play. And why I feel subjected, he dominates over me. So that is how I see the whole thing. That maybe, so India was quite liberal and everything, but maybe we didn't realize that it's a good thing. A good thing is a good thing on its own, maybe not defined by everything. The Britishers come, or other people come, and they tell you that it's not a good thing. Now, since you have no awareness of the thing that it's a good thing, you buy their story. And obviously they are more powerful in the sense that more armies, and you're mentally also more powerful than you. So,
you see, even though we are actually simplifying and generalizing the whole historical process, which was quite a complex thing being played out over many centuries, we are greatly simplifying and generalizing it. Yet what you are saying is significant. We'll have to come to it. If you have good qualities, whatever that means, without you realizing them, then they are not good qualities. Then that is just conditioned moralistic behavior. I have been taught that it is great to be helpful. But that urge to be helpful is not sprouting from within me. Then somebody else can tell me and convince me that no, it's useless to be helpful. Now, this helpfulness, this so-called good quality, was not at all a good quality in the first place because there was no realization backing it. There was only a taught behavior. It was just a behavioral pattern, not something dynamic and fresh and lively arising out of your own awareness. Then somebody else can come and easily convince me, and he does not even need to convince me. If he has all the pomp and power, I'll be dissuaded by his display. Just the display would be enough for me to start feeling inferior. Please understand that a man of virtue, real virtue, cannot give up his virtues. It is beyond him now. He is helpless in a way. You can hack his limbs if you want to. But still he cannot give himself up. He cannot, because that's him. India declared that whatever is the highest possible, I am that. And if I am that, how can I give myself up? Whatsoever is the real truth, the only reality, the only truth, that I am. And there is nothing except truth. Now, how can I give myself up? How can I give the truth up? A man of real virtue cannot be persuaded, dominated, except in physical ways. Yes, physically you can fetter him, but that is all right. That can be done to anybody. So, we will have to stop looking at history. If you are talking of India, we will have to stop looking at history as a reason, as a causation, or as a justification for our ignorance, for all the taboos that are prevalent in society, including the sexual ones.
But do you think that since India's colonization or slavery, whatever, that was not a one-time thing. Like it was not for a short-term thing. It went on for years, hundreds of years. If a man who was virtuous, and if he is repeatedly told over years and years that you're not virtuous, can he come to eventually give up his virtue, or will he not be affected by it, by whatever is happening, whatever is being said or fed to him? He'll not.
You can go on repeating this question for centuries.
And the answer we know. Okay, so apart from these topics...
I see that you want some real change in society. You will not get real change till you keep attributing the darkness prevalent to forces outside of you. You know what you're trying to do. You're trying to bring history into picture. You're trying to bring the Britishers, the Westerners, the Muslim invaders. You have talked about all of these. By talking about all of these, and by talking about men's attitude towards women, that we have a patriarchal society, we are trying to place the onus of this darkness upon somebody else. The fact is, if I am in darkness, I am in darkness. And if light has to come, if change has to come, it has to come today, to me, and through me. Otherwise, you see, there is a history to everything. And then, because human life and the world is cause and effect, you can keep on regressing back infinitely on the chain of cause and effect. And this caused this, and this caused this, and this caused this, and this caused this. And then so what? That's a purely intellectual exercise. There is no real, honest, affirmative action in it, so it will not lead to change. But you will feel as if you have discovered the root, the reason. So what? Change will not come. Change will come only when we understand that the responsibility lies on the individual. If you see that we are a people who are loveless, who know no celebration, who are narrow-minded, violent, aggressive, possessive, the list is endless. If you see all this, then see that it need not be like this. After all, he is like this, and he is like this, and I am like this. It need not be like this. It is needlessly like this. It can change right now. And it can begin with me. In fact, begin with me and end with me. Because all the concerns and troubles and problems that I have right now belong to this state of mind that I am in. I change. Will my questions remain the same? Will my problems remain the same? They will not remain the same. So essentially, everything that you see in society has something to do with the individual's troubled mind. So do not call for historical narratives or institutional action. It is only a change in the individual consciousness that will change everything. Let the man change, let the woman change, and everything will change. Even history will change, surprisingly.
But how does the change come about? How do you...
That's a beautiful question. I'm glad we have come to it, even if at the end of the thing. How does the change come about? It comes about like this. It's an honest effort to understand, to really know what is going on. We are trying to really understand the matter. We are not trying to put blame upon someone. In fact, we are more than prepared to turn inwards. We are more than prepared to see that we are the cause of our so-called misery. Nobody else causes it.
Yeah.
There is no point blaming it on foreign occupation or this and that. If I really want change, I'll have to look at myself. I'll have to look at myself. This looking at oneself is called spirituality. Spirituality. So that is the only way. That is the only way through which any real and meaningful change can come. Otherwise, there are 1,000 ways to, keep pampering oneself and keep deceiving oneself. And man has all those ways. We will raise great institutions, we will have collective action, we will do this and that. Collective action won't help. Institutional interventions won't help, because after all, it is man's mind that is behind all collectivism and all institutional action. Man's mind has to change. Wisdom literature has a great role to play in that. Right education has a great role to play in that. The right guru has a great role to play in that. And none of that can happen without existential grace. So that is the first thing. Let's pray for that grace to come to us, and then you will find that everything changes. Past changes and the future also changes. When young people come to talk, they say, we are a perverted society because we repress sexuality. When old people come to talk, they say, we are a perverted society because we do not care for our elders. When people who are concerned with animal welfare come to talk, they say, we are such perverts because we are cruel towards animals. Or somebody may come and say, we are such perverts because we do not care for the marginalized people, the oppressed ones, the tribals. When women come, they say, we are perverts because we are rapists. When men come, they say we are perverts because all the women are so possessive. Because we are centered in our narrow self-definitions, so we see only that aspect of illusion which is relevant to our self-definition. All these things are related. All these things are related. How can you care for your elders? They are not sexually attractive. So are these things not really related? Are these things not really related? Tell me. What does the old man say? That we are a perverted society because we do not care for our elders. The young man says we are perverts because the society represses my expression of sexuality. But these two things are related. The young man is busy with the young woman in a room, and the old one is coughing and knocking himself out in the adjacent room. Aren't these two things related? But there is a wall in between, and you think the wall really means a division. The wall is an illusion. These two things are related. The fundamental problem is the darkness in human mind. Only spiritual wisdom can heal that.
It was a good having a conversation about it. It's cleared up a lot of concepts. I think I have a lot more questions, but they need to be more articulated. So I'll get back to you.
Oh, we'll welcome you back whenever you are prepared with your questions.